Good afternoon. And thank you for your attention. Thanks for being here so late in the day. It's the middle of my night, but anyway, I'm glad to be here. This session, you may not realize, is part of the ICLEI Researchers Symposium, which has been taking place in parallel to the World Congress, and parts of the symposium are integrated with the Congress, and this is one of those parts. So I want to make a particular welcome to all the researchers who are in the room today. I'm glad you're here. There are also postcards on your chairs referring to Pando, which I'll talk about for a few minutes, but I just want to make sure that you take those with you. These have been very interesting presentations. Mine's a little different in that I'm focusing on what happens before all of these collaborations happen, which is that individual researchers and practitioners get motivated to make these things happen between institutions, between research institutions and cities. So that is the focus of my talk, and I will give you a bit of a backstory. So I have been involved with ICLEI actually since the very beginning. I was at the founding conference in 1990. I was just a small child. My book, Towards Sustainable Communities, the first edition in 1992, the foreword was written by Jeb Berkman, the founding Secretary General of ICLEI. The second edition came out in 1998. And one of the things that was interesting about this book, aside from the content, which was about urban sustainability, was that it was both a scholarly and a practical, popular book. So in the 1992 edition, there were not only scholarly bibliographic references, but there were addresses and phone numbers and email addresses. That was very unusual at the time. By the time of 1998 edition, what happened between 1992 and 1998? Everybody had a website. So the 1998 edition had web addresses. The 2005 edition, also with a foreword by Jeb, who was then the ex-Secretary General of ICLEI. For that one, obviously, I had to create my own website. And in those days, I thought that was a good idea, not realizing how difficult that was to maintain a website. So for the 2012 edition, which has a foreword by Conrad Otto Zimmerman, who was the last Secretary General of ICLEI, the question in my mind was, what is a resource book in 2012? Will anybody read books anymore? And I thought about this long and hard, and I decided that people would still read books in 2012. I'm not sure about 2020, but it had to be more than a book. And so the question in my mind was, what was that more? So with that as a backstory, I want to talk about these two solitudes, if you will. Local governments, local authorities, we all know. But there's this other group, which is a relatively new group. When I started with ICLEI, there would be 3 researchers at a World Congress. Now there are hundreds of people doing sustainability research. So the challenge is that these two groups are not connected. They don't know each other, they don't know how to talk to each other, they don't know how to find each other, they don't know how to collaborate and work together. And as our first speaker said, collaboration and partnerships are the only way that we can deal with these problems because they are so complex, but we are terrible at collaborations and partnerships. So we need to figure out as a species how to be much better at it. So being from Vancouver, which is a rainy city, we put an umbrella over researchers and practitioners and came up with a very cumbersome name of Sustainable Communities Research and Practitioner Network, and that wasn't going to work. It was too wordy, but the idea was that together we could increase innovation, policy diffusion, inspiration, best practice research, capacity building, and so on. So what we were looking for was a sweet spot between the researchers and the practitioners on the horizontal axis, and between sustainability as a global meta-concept and actual communities and cities at the local level. So we were aiming right there in the middle. The question was, and this slide comes from a dating site, how to keep the conversation going. So here we are, we gather at events like this, and actually the Researchers Symposium is a good example. It's the 4th ICLEI Researchers Symposium. We gather every 3 years on a different continent. We don't get the same people coming to the symposium. So we have all this momentum at a conference like this. How do we keep it going? And that's where the inspiration came for Pando. Pando is an online community where researchers, academics, and public and private sector practitioners who are focused on local sustainability challenges can share knowledge, network, and collaborate. So why Pando? As I said, Sustainable Communities Research and Practice Network was way too long. But Pando is very interesting, and this is a photograph of Pando. Pando is an organism it looks like 47,000 individual tree trunks, but they're actually all connected at the roots. It's a single living organism. It's the heaviest organism on the planet. It's 80,000 years old. It's one of the world's most resilient organisms. And in Latin, Pando means I spread. So for us, it symbolizes collaboration. It's a strong, resilient international network of researchers and practitioners dedicated to innovation for more sustainable communities. And if you don't know where this Pando is, it's in the Colorado Plateau in Utah in the United States. So why is Pando necessary? As you all know, communities struggle with capacity, with expertise, and with resources to implement sustainability goals. Success stories and failure stories are not shared widely enough. Researchers need a more efficient way to connect with communities that need their assistance. And Pando provides a way to access the kinds of information and personal interactions that are often only available at conferences like this to keep the momentum going. So Pando helps build and expand relationships with colleagues both near and far, and promotes long-term meaningful collaboration with colleagues around the world. Even better, Pando is in Korean. And Pando is in Chinese. Pando is in Japanese. Pando is multilingual. It's in all of these languages, and we can do more. And what's really amazing about being multilingual is that we can interact through Pando in our own preferred languages. So if I want to collaborate with a Korean researcher who does not speak English, and believe me, I do not speak Korean, we can both have a conversation about our research on the site in our own languages. And people in these other languages can also participate in their languages. So this is something that we thought was very important for an ICLEI-associated organization. So what's new? We actually launched Pando at the 2012 World Congress in Belo Horizonte, Brazil, in conjunction with Rio Plus 20. We are relaunching Pando today here at the World Congress. And over the last 3 years, what we've done is we've taken Pando from being kind of a networking lunchroom concept to more of a collaboration boardroom concept. So the idea is to actually be a place where we can meet, share ideas, and work together toward common goals. You can browse Pando, and you will see things that are open to anyone. But if you don't sign up, you won't see the layer that's underneath. And the layer that's underneath, and this is what's new about Pando, is that we now have the ability to have closed groups and projects. So we could develop a research project here, we could work on a proposal, we could work on a project together, and within these groups and projects, which are not visible to people who are not Pando members or not invited to those groups, we can have frank conversations. We don't have to worry about the public or a reporter seeing those things. We can share ideas, work on proposals and projects and things like that. So I have very little time. I hope to talk to you more about it, but essentially come join us. It's very simple. If you don't have the 5 minutes to log in and put in your name and email address and upload your photograph, come over to me afterwards. I'll take your photo and we'll do it for you. And if you remember nothing else from this presentation, it's pando.sc for sustainable communities. That's all you have to remember. Go home, write it down, log in, and join us. Thank you.
Thank you.